Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start.
Right.
If it's okay, since before we start, we do one of the things that we do is we do a land acknowledgement before we start, if that would be okay. So
Sure.
so we acknowledge that what we call Alberta is the traditional and ancestral territory of many peoples, presently subject to Treaty 6, 7, and 8, namely the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Tsitsika, Cree, Dene, Soto, Nikotosu, Stoney Nakoda, and the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Métis people of Alberta. This includes the Métis settlements in the 6 regions of the Métis Nation of Alberta within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. Thank you, everybody. So for those joining on the recording, we have a very special guest, and perhaps I'll ask Yokoyama Sensei to introduce him to the group, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much again for joining us, Tezuka Sensei.
Thank you very much, Tezuka-san, Kiyo-san, and Riga-san. Thank you for initiating this session and allowing us to just jump in a series of Tuesday sessions. Just let me briefly introduce Tezuka-sensei. I personally call him Kiyo-san. He's now the abbot of Chosho-in in Hikone town, and he will probably introduce himself. But before that, I kind of want to kind of briefly, quickly introduce everyone in this room. Kiyo-san, Yugen-san here is my student who did ordination locally, and Sean, Nathan are from both Edmonton. And Melissa, thank you for putting the name of the city of St. Albert. I was gonna say Edmonton, so. And Kathy is also from Alberta, Canada, in the town from the city called Lethbridge. And Jenna here is from San Diego. It's relatively close to where I am. Right. So I thank you very much, Kiyo-san. Just want to mention how it matters important to me. When I left AH and came back, went to Tokyo and came back to my priesthood after a few years of, not a several, several years absence, I got to read this news articles about Bonnie Glassman, 2006, and went to Montague, Massachusetts, and that's where I met Kiyo-san for the first time. And so that was one big trigger. Then after my father died and I took over the temple, still in a confused state, he invited me just by coincidence when one of Bonnie Glassman's younger brother, Genki-san, came to Japan when Kiyo-san had the Dharma combat ceremony. That was 2011, 12, I think. And that actually triggered the whole series of international mission. So in every step that I make this change, I always had a presence of Kiyo-san. So I always felt this kind of karmic connection with him. So it's such an honor to have him over here when we're kind of launching this whole Canada mission together. So thank you very much for joining us. And Kiyo-san, I know I didn't fully introduce yourself and where you are. So if you could supplement that yourself, that'd be great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiyo Tezuka. I am an abbot of Chosho-in in Hikone, near Kyoto, about an hour by train from Kyoto. And yes, I am a Dharma friend of Yokoyama-san. I call him Yokoyama-san. Yokoyama Roshi. Thank you for inviting me to give me a chance to talk about Roshi, Bernie, Tetsugen, Glassman. I might be a first and last Japanese priest who worked for him as Jisha secretary, learned from him as a Zen student. And before I started, I have to say something first. I have to apologize for my poor English. So if you don't understand, please ask Yokoyama-san what I am talking about, okay? But please pardon me with your generous heart. So how many Japanese speaker here? Okay, all right. A little bit, yeah. Okay, and how many people did you meet Bernie Tetsugen Glassman Roshi before? Yokoyama-san, that's it, right? Okay. When I think of Zen master or Zen priest, I image shaved skin, head like this, and a severe face, like with robe and kesa like this, right? But Bernie Glassman, I always remember he had long beard, long gray hair, smoked cigars, red clown nose, and gentle smiley face, laughter like ah, 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 ah. I had been stayed his place and worked for him as a Jisha from 2005 to 2006, I think. He was 65 years young. He didn't like to be called old, you know, so he always said, I am 65 years young, Kiyo. That's what he always said. The first time I met him was in September 2005 at Kirigayaji Temple. Do you guys know Junyu Kuroda Roshi? Maybe not. Maybe not. He was a young abbot of Kirigayaji Temple. He was Maizumi Roshi's younger brother. Junyu Roshi was a great priest. He served as a link between Japan and overseas Soto sect. He was the one of the founding members of ZCLA back in 1967. Junyu Roshi asked me to be a translator and a driver for Tetsugen Roshi. Tetsugen Roshi came to Tokyo at that time to raise funds to build the Maizumi Institute, Zen Peacemakers. First impression of Tetsugen Roshi was kind of smiling old gentleman. Sorry, Bernie. I took him to many places for 3 days all over in Tokyo, many temples, headquarters of Soto sect. I liked him very much. He was so funny. He knows a lot of things about Zen, you know. And I think he kind of liked him as well. So he said, Kiyo, we're going back, fly back to US tomorrow. Why don't you come with me? Yeah. And I said, that's a great idea, but Roshi, I can't. So give me 2 weeks. I'll be there. And I had a girlfriend, and I talked to her. Yoshie, her name is Yoshie. Yoshie, I have to go to US within 2 weeks. Then she said, okay, I'm going, I'm going with you. Yeah, and she had a job, so she had to quit that job and took R1, R2 visa, and had a wedding, did many things, and we went to US together. We were so young, you know. We were so young. It was long honeymoon for us. In the beginning, I thought my mission was export Japanese Zen to Japanese Zen and Buddhism to US. But truth was totally different. My mission was to learn what American Zen is, and import American Zen to Japan. That was my mission. American Zen was totally different from Japanese Zen. As you know, Zen was imported back in 1970s by Maezumi, Roshi, and the other Roshis, right? I didn't know that, actually. They are not that famous in Japan. That's, I think, kind of one of the problems we have. I could learn many new things of American Zen if I wanted. Many Japanese students the priest went to US before, but they had the same feeling that I had. And that's why Japanese priest or student had to come back to Japan without nothing, you know, because they thought Japanese Zen is the Zen, not American Zen. But I didn't think so. So I wanted to learn many things. And I learned many things from Bernie and Eve sensei. Eve is Bernie's wife and the sensei of Zen. The place of Zen Peacemakers, Maezumi Institute, was located in Montague, Massachusetts. It was a house burned in the mountain. I and my wife lived in the old burn. The burn had a fireplace. And fireplace was our favorite. It was so nice to.
Kiyoさん、I'm sorry, I think Kiyo さん、ごめんなさい。ちょっと音が今途切れてまして。
はい、
今大丈夫です。
今大丈夫ですか？お話どの辺から聞こえなかったでしょ
う？2、3センテンス前ぐらいからですので、ほぼ大丈夫です。
ほぼ大丈夫。Okay.
はい。
the place of Zen peacemakers, and we had a fireplace, and bunnies were running, dogs were barking, birds were singing, insects were bugging, porcupines were stabbing, surrounded like that, you know, surrounded by nature, Mother Nature, kind of that place. Bernie was, I'm so sorry to say this, but I have to say, Bernie was very, very bad car driver, awful car driver. He had driven more than 40 years, but still, he never got used to it. He was a good customer of body shop. So my main job for him as the Jisha was drive his car and take him to the place that he wants. One day, he confessed, to tell the truth, Kiyo, I can't drive backward. I was wondering what the driver's license situation in this country was like. At that time, when I began to be his Jisha, he was not Tetsugen Roshi anymore. He returned to secular life, at least he said so. He stepped down. I called him Bernie, that's why. It's unusual to call him Bernie. Maybe I should have called him Roshi or Tetsugen Roshi or something, you know? Even if so, he was not cared at all. Many of the people are attached to be called Roshi or Sensei or doctor or reverend or professor or blah, 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 whatever. But he was just him, Bernie. He had never cared about his title. I had asked Bernie about American Zen teacher one day. How come they want to be called Roshi? It means old teacher. I don't want to be called old, you know? And also in Japan, the word of the Roshi became a merged corpse. Roshi refers to like Mr. It doesn't mean nothing, just Mr., you know. I thought American people wanted to be independent from British old style, you know, authoritarianism. I thought American priests don't care what they are called, but matter of fact, they do. What do you think about it? Then he smiled and said, people are interesting, aren't they, Kiyo? He had already professed that he was not a priest anymore at that time. As I mentioned, he didn't give morning service. Those were my mission. He seldom sat with us, no zazen. That might be because of his bad knee, probably. I even had never seen him in robe and kesa. I learned many American Zen and American Buddhism from him. He took me to Greyston Bakery in Yonkers several times. Actually, I took him, but whatever. I was surprised that them priest built cheesecake bakery and even run by himself. In my, image of priest, they run temple, sit zazen, chant, and give Dharma talk. But he was owner of bakery for what? And when bakery management went well. He retired, gave up, and started a new mission. I really could not understand what he wanted to do. What was his motivation? What is the priest in this country? He was an activist of social engaged Buddhism, but I didn't understand what social engaged Buddhism is. So I once asked him, "Hey, Bernie, you always say social engaged Buddhism, but what in the world is social engaged Buddhism?" And he answered, "There is no Buddhism that is not involved social engaged Kiyo." Buddhism, or Zen, for him, was the code of behavior for social engage, not ancestor worship. I was so surprised to hear that. I've never thought Buddhism as like so. Japanese Buddhism could not be world religions because of this, that I think. We Japanese might too much stick to ancestor worship and a kind of disrespect aspects of social participation. But on the other hand, of course, ancestor worship has to be respectful, because we should respect ancestors and lives. That is what I believe. Something we stick to our belief too much, like the road leads that way, so walk this way, or our way is the right way, your way is wrong way. Let's walk along this side. Yeah, no problem. And I will show you how to walk. But what I believe is that Japanese priests can learn a lot from American or European or Canadian Zen mind if we can be humble. An American or Canadian or European priest can learn a lot from Japanese Zen ritual if they can be modesty. So I believe that we can cooperate and learn each other between Japanese and Canadian. All we need might be getting away from attachment. Well, let's go back to Bernie's. I had many chances, luckily, to attend to Bernie's Dharma talk. As we know, it's prepared. In general, Dharma talk, we prepare kind of like manuscripts and think about order what we talk, but his way was totally different. He always started with some jokes. Yeah, he loved jokes for sure, pretty much, and lighten up the atmosphere. Then gradually asked participants, do you guys have any questions? Participants raised their hands. He picked 3, 4, 5 questions without taking any notes. Then took a little thinking time. Then started to talk based on those questions. And he said, when he was younger, he accepted more than 10 questions and made his Dharma talk in that moment. He was so smart guy like that. his Dharma talk always went a long, long time. His talk never ended within a time limit, but never, ever bored. To give not prepared Dharma talk means that talks about what participant wants to hear, not what we or what teacher wants to talk about, right? We tend to talk only about what we want to talk about. However, there might be some risks that it will deviate from the story people want to hear. This is the most important lesson learned from Bernie Glassman that I could never, ever be able to practice. I still bring my manuscripts and think what I have to talk. But one day I want to be like that. And I hope that I could have talked about Bernie's story that you guys wanted to hear today. Thank you for your listening. Appreciate it.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you very much, Sensei. So thank you for offering a great talk. What we'll do is we'll open the floor, if it's okay with you, to some questions. And I have sort of a question in the back of my mind, but I'm gonna let other people go for it first here. So
if I understand, yes.
okay.
I'm so happy to have questions from you guys.
Great. Thank you.
Let me just say thank you, Kiyo-san. ありがとうございます。It's brought me back a lot of memories. Although it was only a few days, I was able to spend time with Tezuka and Roshi. Thank you. I have some announcement, I think, regarding Kiyo-san's and connection with Japan later. So I just wanted to say thank you. ありがとうございました。
Oh, maybe I'll. Oh, I see Jenna. Jenna's opened her mic. Jenna, you go first.
Thank you so much for your talk this evening. It was beautiful. I was wondering, when did you leave the United States to go back to Japan to teach or to take over the temple?
Okay. The real reason or real reason? Yeah. They ran out their budget and they could not pay any money for me. And that's main reason. We wanted to stay there more, 2 years, 3 years, but the main reason was money. I'm so sorry. I really wanted to say, like, I learned a lot than Americans, then, so I have to bring it back to Japan and show people that actually no money, no life.
It happened. We all lose jobs on occasion. So
yeah, kind of lay off. Kathy-san, I can't hear you.
Kathy, are you? Oh, we can't hear you. I see you're
sorry, I couldn't hear.
yeah. Can you type it, Kathy? Can you put it in the chat? Oh, long question. That's
Oh,
Very curious what she's going to ask.
wow. I'm wondering that if I can't understand or not.
oh, there it is.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay, that's good question. Maybe they know nothing about American Zen, US Zen. Very few priests are interested in the foreign country's situation of Soto Zen or whatever religion maybe. And I told you that why Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism can't be a world religion. That's kind of local religion for us because we just have service, make money, and then run our temple. That's our main job. And many priests, they don't sit. They don't like sit. They don't like zazen. But recently, the situation are changing. That's what I am thinking and believing. Younger generation, they have kind of feeling of, it's like crisis. Maybe this is not right to be Zen priest. That's what they are thinking. So the world is changing. Japanese Zen is changing. So I think this kind of Zazenkai or friendship, partnership is very, very important for us. And that's why I asked you guys to take a picture of this and I show them what we are doing. Maybe some people, some priests have interested to have conversation about Zen or Dharma or whatever we believe. So this is good chance to have a conversation with you guys. So I have to say thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Anybody else have a? So Melissa, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, my son is playing the drums, so if you can hear that in the back, my apologies.
No.
It's quite loud.
Getting ready for the monastery.
Yeah. more like rock and roll.
I like rock and roll.
Excellent. My question had to do with your comment about how Canadians could be more open to the traditions of Japanese and if we are more modest. I was wondering if you could explain that a little bit more. Canadians are very, well, I'm speaking very generally, but we're definitely non-traditional people. Many of our families do not have tradition. We just don't have that kind of history. So it's a bit of a big change. So how do we go about embracing that side of Japanese Zen?
I know nothing about Canadian Zen at all. Priests are
Kiyo-san, I think the sound is getting cut off again.
to
ごめんなさい、
follow
キヨさん。
Japanese way.
音がすみません。もう一遍ちょっと切りかかっちゃってます。
そしたらもう一回あれ消そうか。
そうですね。ごめんなさい。
一回、ちょっと待ってね。Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I know nothing about Canadian Zen at all, but I know American Zen a little bit. They wanted to be independent from Japanese Sodo sect. So many disciples of Maezumi Roshi built a new kind of Zen club, and they don't want to have relationship because the ancestor worship is not my way, or we don't need that. We just need sit. I doubt it. We need both if we want to learn Zen in Chinese character, not Z-E-N Zen. You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of difficult. We imported Zen from China, right? And we imported Zen and Buddhism, you know, Zen as Buddhism. But many American or European priests think that they just need Zen part. I kind of doubt it. We need both. But sometimes Japanese priests push, you know, like this is right way. Your way is wrong way. Come with me. That's what I doubted as well. It's so difficult to say, but we need to learn old part and the new part. If you are Zen priest, but if you are Zen practitioner, maybe you don't need that old part. Yokoyama-san, what do you think?
Kiyo-san, thank you. It's wonderful to hear your perspective. I do have my own thought, and that's why I'm so passionate about Rocky Mountains and or the mission in Canada. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take way too much time, but yeah, it's like a thread that runs vertically, a thread that runs horizontally. I think we need both to make a very solid fabric. And the reason I'm interested in Canada, I'll just be frank with you, it's the ancestral worshipping is an acknowledgement of those before us. And we don't really need to know who exactly they are. Just kind of a vague acknowledgement that there are people before us, before settlers came, before even the native people came. So that goes to the idea of past Buddhas and all the ancestral teachers. And I think it's a very, very important aspect of understanding of Sotos, and especially today. In the US, even I can sense it's changing because the community itself is kind of, there's a generation, there's layer of teachers already. But that's why I'm very passionate, interested in doing the mission in Canada. But anyway, that's my thought. I'm sorry.
Thank you. And what was that okay with you, Lisa? My answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say just something? Kiyo-sana has been very helpful. When the article that I accidentally had to submit to Sotoshi Shumicho got circulated because the person who was in charge just didn't submit this article in time, which I'm translating today. So got circulated all to the temples, and then including Kiyo-san's temple, and that we owe that to Dokan-san. It's an interesting coincidence. And he actually introduced me to priest, Gyokan-san, who's under the now training to be shike, which like to be a licensed director of a monastery. So he's gonna know plenty of like a great deal of things because he gets exposed to all these teachers and masters. Then another person wasごめんなさい、ホジュンさんですね。ホジュンさん。Yes. ジンポさんとおっしゃった。ホジュンさん is a Polish priest who currently settles in Tokyo, and he is the student of Kuroda Roshi. So Maezumi Roshi's younger brother. And he introduced him to me, and then we had a nice conversation. So Kiyo-san is now connecting us with this spirit that flows through Maezumi Roshi, Kuroda Roshi. And I had a bit of an overlap when Kiyo-san was talking today. I just recently watched Maezumi Roshi's talk. So there's so much overlap. So I hope we get to introduce Hojin-san as well. ありがとうございます。
はい。
I think
Other any other questions?
Sean, do you have any like comments? Because you've been very passionate. It's like it symbolizes social engagement aspect of Rocky Mountains, and
noble silence tonight. Thank you so much, senseis, for your words. I believe Ryogen-san has something. I know he's been burning to say. I could see it.
Well, to be honest, I mean, part of my question was that Melissa kind of hit on quite a bit. What I was going to say, or was going to ask about, that Sensei, in your talk, you talked a lot about American Zen and sort of the difference, the sort of the perceived difference. I remember a talk from Shohaku Okamura Roshi, where he was saying, "Oh, American Zen, it's maybe in 102 years or 200 years or something like that. Maybe there might be something like American Zen that will pop up, but for now, it's very much embedded in the sort of in the Japanese tradition." In Canada, and I get in trouble every time I say this, so I'm going to try and be gentle and smooth it over. There's not very much in the way of Zen in Canada. There is some, for sure. There are a few centers in some of the very large, and I'm speaking primarily, sort of Japanese tradition Zen. There isn't much in Canada. There's one to the south of us, about 3 hours, and then the closest one after that is about 14 hours away by car. So it's very, very spread out. And so it can be difficult to really get the you can get for several years. I got a very high overview of Japanese Zen from YouTube and that sort of thing. It wasn't until I met Gyoke that I actually was able to. He's helped and made it possible for us to peer deeper into the tradition in a way that I don't think would have been possible out here because we're the Zen wilderness is what I describe. Certainly the Japanese Zen wilderness. And so I guess the question that I would have, or I was curious as to your thoughts that you might have, is what would be Wild West Zen? Yeah, that's it. I very much respect the Japanese tradition, and it's something that I definitely want to learn, and I want to I want to learn to internalize and understand and work towards embodying. But I guess the question is what's the best way to do that when you're all alone in the world, so far away from everybody else? That's a little dramatic, but there is a certain reality to we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have temples here. We don't, at least not Zen temples. We don't have, we've very little in terms of the infrastructure and in terms of buildings, even less infrastructure in terms of local experienced teachers and directors and that sort of thing. Do you have any thoughts of how we incorporate, how we make sure that we learn that and are able to learn sort of the Japanese tradition? Sorry, that was a much longer question than I meant it to be. Thank you.
Well, why don't you come to Japan?
I'd love to.
Go to well, that's really difficult and a nice question. Really good question. If you could learn in this country, in the monastery, that could be the best way to know what Japanese Zen is. But I wonder that if you want to be Zen priest, maybe that's the best way. But if you want to be a Zen practitioner, what do you think? Maybe you have perfect situation there. We can sit without tatami, right? We can do like a social engaged Buddhism without Japanese ritual or ceremony. So if you guys want to come to Japan and learn at Eiheiji Sojiji monastery, wherever, then I can help as much as I can I can do. But if not, Yokoyama-san would think your course, what you really want to be. And I don't have to be, I mean, everyone don't have to be a priest. Then practitioner also can be social engaged Buddhist, right? And also you can learn on the web, like YouTube, what you taught me. So first, you have to, find your way. You know what I mean? Find your way to what you are going to be, priest or lay. Set and setting, right? And yeah, I'm here. So if you want to really learn at AHG, I can arrange it for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Kiyo-san, we gotta get you over to Canada.
Yeah, that's what I do. We have to give you a tour. Yeah. To show you. Yeah.
If you want to.
And Owen-kun too. He has a son. His name is Owen. Yes, he's gonna be soon old enough to travel alone too. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My wife's name is Yoshie, and it's hard to pronounce for American friends. So she wanted to be called more easier, like Owen. That's easy. And Owen, O means big, N means circle. So big circle. And the circle is the main signature of Zen, right? Very famous. And we are dot, like I am dot, one dot, right? Gyoke dot. Then Gyoke, Kiyo has friendship, then make line. And plus Gina, triangle, Kathy, square, right? Then many people, many friends make a big circle. That's why I decided to call him Owen, big circle. And also M means Japanese yen, the money. So big money. That's that's his name as well.
When Owen-kun's old enough, I really hope he can join our Sangha. And please let him know that you have a Sangha in Canada as well.
Thank you. I will. Yeah.
Did anybody else have anything quickly before we're almost at time? So no. Okay.
Hi.
So, Sensei, would you be willing to offer a dedication for the class tonight?
そうだ、キヨさん言い忘れてました。最後の締めのエコーを、もし突然ですけど、普通の笛エコーでいいと思いますけども、お願いしてもよろしいでしょうか。聞こえますか？はい。で、その略3本で。
願わくはこの功徳をも聞こえる？聞こえますか？ はい、じゃあ、クエコで3本で。願わくはこの功徳をもってやっと主上と皆ともに仏道上善ことをしおさんしいしふしそんぶさもとさもこほじゃほろみ。
Oh, pardon me. Thank you very much, Tezuka Sensei, for your talk tonight and joining us. And thanks everybody for your questions and Kyoke, thank you very much for arranging. So it's
Thank
very
you.
much appreciated.
Just one thing before we close. Kiyo-san, did you take a screenshot of us?
Cool. I'll turn off the recording here
Not
first.
yet.